right, everybody. Hello, my name is Stephen Kelly, and I am your host here on what is episode one of this new version of Arcadia Pod's podcast. Um, I've titled this episode, What Am I Doing Here? Because let's face it, what am I doing here? I had people asking me for a long time, hey man, your podcast or your website's called Arcadia Pod. Where's the podcast? And rather than coming up with some convoluted reason why, I wanted to explain here that for those of you that were unaware, I had fully intended years ago to do a podcast. I actually did do a podcast for a little while under this name, and basically, I had converted my site and everything over from being specifically a website about British science fiction. Like if you go back on my page far enough, you'll see banners and stuff for it where that was what it was. And I ended up deciding that I didn't want to just write about that, and I wanted to kind of do book reviews and some other stuff. And especially, there was a period of time right before COVID, like from like 2017 to 2020, where I got really heavy into doing book reviews, and you know, that kind of time period, especially, I wanted to kind of change brands. So I went ahead and bought the new hosting and everything, and then right about that time, my mother passed away, and my I got a divorce, so it kind of slowed me down. And it really was not until COVID happened, and I decided to start taking my son to historical sites and going to local independent wrestling shows that I kind of re-geared everything. And as I've told people in the past, I kind of accidentally became a pro wrestling. I don't want to say journalist because I don't like that, but blogger. Analyst, what some people have said, because I just randomly started reviewing shows and people noticed it, and now I'm up to 600 followers at this point, and it's been kind of a crazy ride. Published, magazines. Kind of got out of hand. I'm in too deep now, guys. So it's kind of you guys are stuck with me. So if you're here for this first episode, it's probably going to be a rambling mess. My cats might run in here. I actually had to re-record this part because one of my cats decided it was a spectacular time to start making a giant loud noise over here with their food dish. So I ran them away, and let's see if that continues on. So first up, we're going to talk about some news. Now, one thing with this podcast versus other wrestling related podcasts, and like keep in mind, this isn't only going to be wrestling. The whole point of me switching over to Arcadia Pod versus other stuff is I wanted to have a lot of stuff. And if you notice, I do review books and anime and movies and stuff like that. So it's more of a catch all. Independent wrestling just happens to be my big thing on here, so that's going to be a lot of it. But what I am not going to do is be a tabloid or a dirt sheet or anything of that nature. If you want to read that kind of stuff, I'm sure you can find a wrestling forum that does that. That is nothing that I've been into. And I also don't like gossipy stuff and negativity. I've seen sorry, allergies. Plenty of wrestling podcasts devolve into negativity, and it upsets me when I see that because let's face it, Kansas City has had an issue with in the past with kind of negativity in the local scene, and I don't think me adding to that helps anybody. So I try not to do that. And if anybody catches me doing that stuff, call me out. I will apologize. But other than that, that's kind of where I stand on stuff. But we do have some news to talk about. First of all, it's going to be news related to me. Book update. Thank you all if you purchased last year and early this year the 2024 KC Ringside Annual, which was a book that I put out and had on me at shows. I didn't go out of my way to like push it too much because I try to lay low. I'm not a big like I'm gonna promote myself all everywhere kind of guy. Um, but I'm almost sold out of that, and I'm currently working on the 2025 book. My only hiccup right now is that the 2025 book is going to take a little bit because it's going to be a lot longer, and also I'm still in school. I'm currently working on a class right now. I'll be done in the middle of May. That gives me a few months to hopefully crank out the most of that book and hopefully get it on up for sale. ETA hopefully late summer. I'm not thinking like September or anything, but like we'll see if maybe I can get it out July or August. It'll be way bigger with more stuff because previously I was limited to 83 pages. That was the Previous company that I went through was called Kablam. I believe they're out of somewhere in Florida. And the issue was that with Kablam, I was limited to 83 pages. That's all their machine could handle for that style of cover that I did. And if I suddenly decided to do their other style book, it like tripled the price. So that would immediately price everybody out of it. I'm not going to sell like a 100-page book for like $30, $40 just to make money. That's ridiculous. I also had to buy everything up front. So with the Kablam books, I had to basically pay for the books plus all this exorbitant flat rate shipping fee just to get it up here. And it made it to where I had to kind of make the book a little more expensive than I had wanted to. It was $20, but I messed around in late January, early February. I think it was around the time of the Olympics, so I guess it would have been February. And I managed to actually get the book on, well, the 2024 book on Amazon. And, well, here's the cover of the 2025 book right there, a little preview. That picture took an eternity to make, and I hope no new people join. A part of me just wants to cut and paste that onto the next one because that was a nightmare. But all that aside, joking here. So I've got it on Amazon, currently running for $16.99. It's a little bit different than the other one. So if you have a copy of the original one, this one does look slightly different. There's not I think the color isn't as vibrant, honestly, but it's something where I can work with it, and in the future I can put other materials up here, save people money, save myself money, and I don't have to worry about holding on to leftover product and everything. So I have high hopes for this, and hopefully I can get the 2025 one up pretty soon. Um, One thing I will ask, if you did purchase the 2024 book, could you go to Amazon for me? And you don't have to put 5 stars. Just can you put some kind of a review on there for me? That would be amazing. That way more people see it, and maybe we can build a little bit more notoriety for the local wrestling scene, because it seems like Kansas City often gets overlooked. You talk about Harley Race, and then it just kind of falls off a cliff. We've had instances where it was going pretty well for a while, Metro Pro, NWL, etc. But the reason I can coin this phrase that it is the new golden age of Kansas City professional wrestling is we've got so many companies running right now. It's crazy. There's so much wrestling out there in the area, and I want to show it off. So if you guys can do that for me, that'd be amazing. So that's my groveling for the episode. Need to have a grovel corner. Maybe we can make something out of that. Anyway, next news thing. There was some unfortunate news out of a Central States wrestling show in Ottawa, Kansas, and it looks like Moonshine Mantell suffered a little bit of a hamstring injury and is going to be out of action for a while. It looks pretty gnarly. He's been hurt a lot of this year. The dude's been wrestling in a boot. It's been incredible to see him out there, and he can't catch a break because everybody knows he's hurt. Every nefarious person that you can think of that wants to take his title has been attacking him, has been going after his foot, his leg, everything. And I was not at, unfortunately, this Ottawa show, but it just looks like the worst possible thing could have happened. So let's wish him a speedy recovery, and hopefully we can see him back in full force here pretty soon. I have no word on whether or not that's going to change anything moving forward, and hopefully I can get the results of that show here soon to post. Alrighty, if you watched Ring of Honor, you might have noticed some familiar faces on there, as both Nixie XS and Amina Belmont, that you might notice. Amina is the current Trailblazer Championship Wrestling Women's Champion, and Nixie XS has wrestled in, Fountain City, Trailblazer. She's been pretty much everywhere in the area. They were both included on a recent episode of Ring of Honor. Two other people that you might recognize, we had um, NWA picked up Grayson and Valor, who are out of Chicago, but they actually came in and wrestled at the March to Madness show for Trailblazer Championship Wrestling and blew some people away. I mean, these kids are like 18 years old, and some of the reviews on the social medias for their show, or people just gobsmacked about these guys. So crazy deal. You don't see too many kids that young getting in there that aren't like fourth generation stars or anything. So pretty cool. Pretty cool to be able to see them wrestle before that happened. Because who knows? I'm sure they'll be around still, but it's still just kind of crazy to see. So what we're going to talk about next is some upcoming shows. I currently, in the next couple weeks, I have 2 shows that I'm planning on going to. There's a whole bunch of shows coming up. I just can't go to all of them, unfortunately. But we're going to talk about 2 of them that I know for a fact that I'm going to, unless something happens, because I have tickets. And yeah. So April 18th is going to be Show Me States Wrestling Retro Combat in Moberly, Missouri. And April 25th is going to be KCXW Unleashed 2026, which is in Kansas City, Missouri. Um, so with Retro Combat, it's held in a really awesome venue. It's the MACC Event Center, which is like an arena. It's a basketball arena, but I mean it's big. It probably holds 1,000 people. I honestly can't tell just from looking at it, but it's got gym style arena seating, and it looks like, I mean, it's got a Megatron on the ceiling and everything else. And so, I mean, you go in there and you just kind of walk down the bleachers, and it's massive. If they could ever fill this thing up, it would be incredible. They had a pretty good turnout for the last show. They had last spring or last early summer a big super show between them and New Breed Wrestling, and I was just in love with the venue. So Retro Combat is actually going to be partially a retro gaming convention of sorts, or like a vendor convention. So if you just want to go to the vendor convention, that is $5. The wrestling by itself is going to be $13 for a ticket. First come, first serve on the seating, and there's a combo for $15. So the con starts at 10 a.m. and the wrestling's at 5:30. So if you're going to be in Moberly, that's a little bit of a drive for me. That's honestly about as far out as I'm willing to drive, unless the Undertaker shows up randomly at some show. I've driven crazy distances for wrestling shows. I once drove 8 hours to go meet Bret Hart and Roddy Piper in Iowa, and that was a little bit much for me. It's not like, I don't know how some of the boys do it, because driving that much is crazy. But if you're out there, it looks like it's going to be really good. Here's kind of the card. You've got the whole show is kind of headlined by El Diablo, your current Show Me States heavyweight champion, going up against CJP, who, all right, let me get my cats to stop acting insane. Hey, go away. Okay, sorry. All right, being hoodlums. Anyway, we've had over a year of these two like button heads, mostly because CJP is normally an official, and he has done some kind of alleged hinky things to try to make El Diablo lose his championship or never gain the championship in the first place. And it's been kind of crazy watching these two steaming locomotives collide with each other here. So I know that the Show Me States top brass is probably getting tired of some of the stuff CJP is doing, so watching this kind of unfold has been crazy. So yeah, that's the card if you want to look that over there. Got some cool stuff on there. Next up is KCXW Unleashed, which is going to be coming up the following week at the Ozark Armory, which is in Kansas City. And that is going to have general admission tickets for $10 for kids and $15 for 13 and up. Unfortunately, the extreme seating and the VIP tickets are all gone at this point. The Ozark Armory is really good. KCXW and CSW have both run shows in it. I don't remember it ever having a problem with like air conditioning or anything, so it's one of those things where it should be, for all intents and purposes, a pretty solid show. You've got Team Double Stuff versus the Squires. You've got Burt Candy against Clay Huna, Shailin against Mercy, and there's going to be a KC Rumble, which is a 20-man battle royale. So I'm a gigantic fan of battle royale matches or Royal Rumble matches, and I guess this is a Rumble match, but I'm a big fan of that style of match, and I am excited to see that, because sometimes you have shows where they'll have like a Rumble at the beginning or something. But this one has the thing that I like about something like this has a actual like goal to it. Like whoever gets this is going to be number one contender. What I don't like is when you just have a bunch of random matches that like, oh hey, here's 17 scramble matches, and it's like, oh, all right, that's the hill that I'm dying on. I'm not going to go into that, but having an actual um, tangible goal towards that they can go for, really cool. All right, you got a couple other shows that same weekend for the most part. There's a Dwarfinator show in Kansas City, and if you want to go further out, New Breed Wrestling has a show way out closer to St. Louis, a charity show called Scarlet Mania. That's going to be on the 18th. So look at New Breed and the Dwarfinator's websites for information on those. I'll inevitably watch the New Breed show when they put it on YouTube. I don't think there's a way for me to watch the Dwarfinator show. I've never been to a micro company. It's one of those things I'd like to go to, but I know they generally are kind of expensive, and I'm not a bar guy, and a lot of times they're in bars, and I don't know. I think drunk people and wrestling doesn't mix very well, so we'll see. All right, next up is a show report. The last show that I went to a couple weeks ago was Tri-States Wrestling Spring Slampede, and that was coming out of Bethany, Missouri, which is up north of where I am. I'm actually located in Independence, so it was about an hour and 15 or something drive, but I don't mind going to Bethany. The little arena, the little gym that they hold shows in is like a community center gym, perfect for wrestling shows. Always has a hot crowd. They had a bunch of kids there that were just having a blast. Loudest kids ever seen, I think. They were not letting Hal Rogers get away with anything. It was crazy. Um, Basically, we had the Iceman came out, and it had been announced a while back that the Iceman was going to be the special ring announcer, which is cool because like the Iceman recently retired. One of the saddest moments of last year was when that happened. So seeing him come back was kind of cool. And then he announced that he was not only going to be the ring announcer, but he had stepped in to be the new general manager of the company. So awesome news there. We get to see the Iceman as long as there's a Tri-States show, and we'll see what he can do. You had the Outlaw King Bennett James ended up beating Nakona Kinu by pinfall. Kinu was very impressive in this match. He ended up pulling off a Three Amigos that honestly kind of stole the show for me a little bit. And that's a guy that started like last summer, and he's been doing a hell of a job so far. Um, the Outlaw King was up to some of his old tricks, but largely there was a moment at the end where he walked over and shook Kinu's hand and just blew everybody away. I think that's the first time I've ever seen him have any sort of sportsmanship. And so let's see where that's going. I don't know if he's after finally losing, he got maybe humbled by being injured for part of last year. Like I said, I don't know what caused it, but it's interesting. Um, Hal Rogers came out and interrupted the beginning of the tag team match, and he come to find out he aligned himself with the Squared Circle Squires, and the three of them ran roughshod over this match against Wild and Untamed, and unfortunately, you had the three of these guys, the Squared Circle Squires. It's hard to say, ended up winning the tag team championships. And I tell you what, there's nothing worse than hearing them blow the trumpets. They were out there multiple times blowing the trumpets. Hal is insufferable as ever, as you can imagine. It was, it was good for them. They're a new tag team, and I like seeing that get acknowledged and everything, and then winning the belts. But man, you get in there and cheat that much and bend the rules. And Hal, clearly he turned the tide in the match. He used the belt to get a cheap win, and it's just kind of it's a tainted victory, but it's in the record books, so it is what it is. All right. Next up was Dr. Ison versus a newcomer, Captain Mikhail Jones, and pretty solid match. Dr. Ison clearly had the experience over Jones, being former champion and all. And although there was a few times where it seemed like Jones was maybe going to come away with it, but Dr. Ison inevitably was able to pull off the big win, get the big elbow drop, and take it home. He had Psychotic beat Rad Rico, making his debut in the company. Psychotic was just on a tear in this match. He would not let up. Granted, he was not on the up and up in any way. He kept hitting Rico in the face, hitting him in the eyes, poking his eyes. It seemed like he might have been scratching him. He just did not want him to be able to see, it seemed like. And when push came to shove at one point, when he kind of seemed like Rico was getting a comeback, he pushed him in the corner where the ref couldn't see and did a low blow on him. That's how he won. So, I'm not going to necessarily give him his flowers for winning the match in a good way, but whoops, I went backwards. No. Well, anyway, so that kind of happened. Next up was your main event. Old Glory 2 ended up having a match against Hal Rogers. Everybody was super into Old Glory 2 coming out. He had sung the national anthem, or not, he didn't sing it, but he led the national anthem. And he ended up, unfortunately, losing. Well, he technically won the match, but he ended up getting won by disqualification because the Squires beat him up randomly in the middle of the match, just to kind of protect the title. So Hal ended up not losing it. Iceman was furious. Iceman came out and basically restarted the match, but made it a trios match. So you had Wild and Untamed and Old Glory versus the Squires and Hal Rogers. And that descended into pure chaos, and inevitably Hal and the Squires ended up winning. And it was just they put everybody on notice. Basically, Hal Rogers and the Squires, this new kingdom that has formed, put everyone on notice. They have almost every, between the three of them, they've got the tag championships, they've got the heavyweight championship, and they have got the King of Missouri. So all they need, honestly, at this point is CJP is the Missouri champion, and if they can get that belt from him, that's it. So it's going to be interesting to see what 2026 looks like for these guys. I'm going to kind of step back and see if this will play, but this is a video that I took. Well, it's a video that I made comprised of pictures that I took, so we're going to give you a quick little visual aid of kind of what this show looked like. So let's look over there, and let's take a look. All right, there's that. They actually did record that as a live stream, so if you head over to the Facebook page for Tri-States Wrestling, you will see that on there. Feel free to watch it. All right, next up, field trip kind of situation I'm going to talk about. So I was in Warrensburg, Missouri a couple weeks back, and I had to go to school because I was presenting some stuff from my history classes. And I ended up driving back to my old hometown, where I used to live, where I went to school the first time, back in the day. And a really rainy week. It seemed like the town was flooding, and I used to live there for 20 years. Don't remember it ever flooding, but get in there, and like I said, I was presenting a class, some of the research findings I had, and I remembered that I knew that Butch Reed was buried in Warrensburg. He used to live in Warrensburg. He was one of 2 celebrities that I knew of in Warrensburg. You would occasionally see him at like Walmart or something, but I never really had the opportunity to go up and introduce myself or anything because I would have been a kid. It's just like I'm not gonna, because you never know. I've met wrestlers that are crazy, and you don't want to do that. But Butch Reed lived there, and then if you remember the show Mama's Family, the guy that played the son Bubba used to live in Warrensburg as well. You'd see both of them. But anyway, Butch Reed, they recently put a memorial in for him in a park called Blind Boone Park. So I basically went to Blind Boone Park, and I'm going to kind of show you what that looks like here. So that's the park sign, and this is a video where I'm walking through the park to kind of show you where this was. So this right here is, like I said, it was really muddy and rainy that day, so I didn't go venturing off into the grass too much. But for the most part, you walk into this park, there's some statues. Like right behind me was a big statue of a harp that the wind would play if it's really windy outside. The park is named for Blind Boone, which was a musician in the turn of the century, and he was, as you can imagine, blind. But he was an African-American man. He became very popular, and then, as with many things in the early 20th century, he got kind of forgotten about. But he was, he sold out concert halls, and he was a popular touring musician. That's a statue of him. You turn the corner, and if you can kind of see it there, keep walking down, that is the Butch Reed Memorial. And let it go just a little bit further here. And really cool that they did this, though. I mean, they have a bronze plaque. They have a whole thing about his history, and you get a little bit closer to it, and that's the end of that. You can kind of see what it looks like. A picture of his face a little closer. And here's a picture of the plaque. Bruce Franklin Reed. So just really cool to see. You don't see wrestling memorials very often, and they also have a mural like nearby. So really, really cool to see that in a town. I know there's a few people that are buried around. I kind of looked it up. I might see if I can find some graves for some people and talk about it on here. But I figured Warrensburg is fairly close to Kansas City. Most of my viewership and everything is in that area, or some people live in central Missouri. And if you didn't know that this was there, it's something to check out. I believe in the cemetery in that area. He's also buried there. I did not have time, nor did I want to traipse around through mud to go to it, but that might be something for a future thing. So, yeah, kudos to Warrensburg for doing something like that. It was awesome. Well, that's about all I have for this episode. I really wanted to talk about the Tri-States show and then get you guys ready for shows that are this weekend. Right now, as I speak, it is going into April 16th, so some of these Saturday shows are just 2 days away. I could have prepared this a little more, but I figured I wanted to get this out and show this kind of as a proof of concept, and it'll get better. This is my first time. I don't have a co-host for this like I have in the past. So it's just going to be me rambling, showing you guys slide presentations probably. But, if you guys want me to cover anything or you have a question for me, let me know. I can include that in the show. I plan on trying to get some interviews now that I have this. And next time I'll probably try to get a better camera. I could probably hook my phone up to the computer here and make it run a little better. I can see that there's probably going to be a little bit of latency with my mouth moving versus what it says. So anyway, thank you all very much for joining me for this, and I appreciate every single person that watches this. Hopefully I'll keep you on for some more episodes. Let me know what you think, and if you, like I said, want me to do anything on here, want me to cover anything, please let me know, and we'll go from there. Thank you all so much. Have a wonderful night, and I'll see you next time. And if I see you there in Moberly, Missouri this weekend, say hey. So, have a great one.